What is up, team? Welcome back to the Red Storm Rapid Reaction Podcast. I'm Pat Kane. That's Cole Latshaw. Once again, we're here to discuss a big St. John's victory. Their second straight double-digit victory, this time at home against Villanova. They win 80-68. An exciting game, a great atmosphere near sold-out Madison Square Garden. And St. John's gave the fans the perspective of what it looks like to be back in the big-time realm of college basketball. Cole, your thoughts on the 5-1 alone in second place in the Big East St. John's Red Storm?
I mean, RJ Lewis was just an absolute superhero performance yesterday. 30 points, 10 boards. How about him diving on that loose ball when we were kind of in a comfortable position there at the end of the game, and just still the hustle and unwilling to give up and fight for every loose ball. Just an unbelievable performance for him. I think probably if it wasn't for RJ's performance, my quote unquote player of the game would be the 18,200 people that showed up to MSG yesterday. That place was absolutely rocking. Looked to be like 90% red and white, like really a Nova fan base that usually travels really well to New York, a fan base that has a lot of alumni in the city. Couldn't hear a peep out of them. Like, that place was rocking. Kudos to the players, kudos to the fans. Just absolutely awesome atmosphere, and what we expected when Rick Pitino became our head coach.
Yeah, and it looked like Rick really enjoyed it. It sounds like he's reinvigorated by this, the atmosphere the St. John's fans are bringing in that lower bowl. You're right. I mean, the majority of fans look to be wearing St. John's red, certainly making noise. It was awesome to see, and RJ Lewis, MVP of the game, third straight double-double, 30 points, 10 rebounds, the most free throws a St. John's player has made, 16 since Marcus Hatton in 2001. Quick question on the topic of that loose ball. Shouldn't that have been a backcourt? I mean, wasn't that Dixon who touched that ball first? I mean, I love the hustle by Lewis, but if Dixon just touches that ball, it's ours to move away. I guess you'd rather not, get in the guy's head not to play hard. So I won't get down on RJ's hustle one bit, but it was perplexing that wasn't a backcourt violation, at least from my vantage point. Speaking of Dixon, Eric Dixon, the nation's leading scorer, big story of yesterday's game was how St. John's defended him. Coming into yesterday's game, Dixon had only scored under 20 points once all season. St. John's made it a second time yesterday, his first time in 8 times prior. A combination of Aaron Scott, Zuby Ejiofor, and good help defense. Real team effort. Can't forget Ruben Prey with good solid minutes as well. Scott's length, Zuby's strength really did a number. I mean, still finished with 18 points, but it was on 6 of 19 shooting. So St. John's made him work for everything he got. Aside from a few decent looks from 3 in the second half, I thought overall the defensive performance on Dixon was tremendous and a huge part of why St. John's was able to get this win.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to Zuby with kind of more statistically a quiet night compared to what he's given us the rest of the season. 11 points, 9 rebounds, but plus 16 leading the team in plus minus. I think that's really indicative of his defensive performance, like you said, helping out with Dixon. Also, Scott as well continues sort of with his 3-point shooting struggles, shooting 2 for 7 from 3. Although you mentioned when we were talking offline, like, hopefully good that both him and RJ finally got to see a few actually go through the basket. So hopefully that gives him some confidence going forward. But again, kind of a quiet night, only 12 points, only 4 boards, but played 39 minutes. I think he was third on the team at +9 and really was taking the lion's share of defensive load of guarding Dixon. I think the two of them played tremendous defense, to your point, to hold Dixon to only 18 points. A rough shooting from the field night, just tremendous effort on arguably one of the best, if not the best player in the entire nation. His ability to score is insane. And both teams coming into this game, 8-1 over their last 9. Villanova's turnaround that they've made in the second part of this early season so far is really a huge feather in the cap to Eric Dixon and the load that he's had to take on with this team.
Yeah, Villanova has turned their season around quite a bit. Hopefully they continue to play well and can knock on the tournament door, as long as it doesn't, have anything to do to affect our chances of making it. I don't think it will. But a couple other good pieces. Wooga Poplar played really well. He had a tough to handle second half for St. John's, and then Brickus in the first half was good too. You mentioned Scott and Lewis hitting some threes. Those were some big threes in the second half too. Lewis had a big one, and then Scott. St. John's was down 51-47. It was 9 minutes left. Scott hit a 3 right when it looked like Nova could have really turned the momentum in their direction. Heard some Nova chants in the building at that point. Scott hit a huge three, and from that point forward, that 9-minute mark, St. John's outscored Villanova 33-17, and really, took control of the game. And who knows if that shot doesn't go in, Nova gets a basket, it becomes a 6-point game, and maybe St. John's is fighting for their lives and not able to overcome that. So huge shot by him, and I love the approach he's had these last two games, especially that road to Xavier game, and we didn't get a chance to talk about that one. Really, junkyard dog Aaron Scott really emerged and was all over the offensive glass, fighting defensively. He is a tremendously gifted defensive player, and a lot of it is just his will and his effort. But he's got strength, he's got length, he's got what is that phrase that Coach Pitino loves to use about athleticism? Lateral quickness, I believe, right? He's got that in spades, and for a guy his size, he especially has it for a guy his size, able to get in close against Dixon and give him no space on the perimeter. It was really evident last night. So hopefully this offensive performance from three he had last night can carry over a little bit moving forward, because that defense is certainly here to stay. And then Lewis, I'm sorry.
And we mentioned a lot. We mentioned it a lot too with like Kadari and some of the criticisms that he's gotten with his quote unquote struggles, is that Kadari has the ability to affect the game in so many other ways besides just scoring. And when Aaron Scott first signed on, we were sold on this idea of him being a real 3-and-D player. Now the three part of that 3-and-D hasn't really been there. Really struggling shooting. I'm not sure exactly what he's at. He was 22%, 26% from three for the season. If that can start falling and turn around, fantastic. But his ability to affect the game on the defensive end, on the glass, is a huge assist to this team. And really, I think that's why he's stayed in starting lineup. That's why he's stayed on the court as much as he has, right? Because his ability to defend on the defensive end is something that we don't have on the rest of that roster.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to have to increase a little bit more. We'll see what happens. The only sour point of the night last night was Davon Smith going out with the injury. Looked to be a shoulder issue. Rick was a little bit he didn't seem too concerned after the game, Rick, saying that it wasn't a dislocation and it won't be too long till he's back. Perhaps he'll miss the Georgetown game. Obviously, however, a long year without him is a big loss. He does so many things for us, and he's the one guy I feel, to a man, is really hard to replace physically with what we have on the roster. It'd be hard pressed to replace Zuby or RJ 100%, but I think athletically and lengthwise we can fill in a lot of gaps if we were to have one of those wings go down. Without Smith, we don't have a guy who can really exploit other teams, use their quickness to change a game. So we'll be interested to see who emerges or who steps up, or if Rick expands his bench at all, maybe give Lefty a minute or two in the first half just to give some guys some breathers, or he uses Io a little bit more. But certainly hope that Smith isn't out for an extended period of time and he's able to get back on the court, because he's such a game changer. In that first half he had last night, really, who knows if he doesn't have that 12 points in that first half, doing what he did to get us started, where the game might have led.
12 points, 4 rebounds in only 17 minutes of game time. And what an absolute dog he is, coming onto the bench with his arm in a sling. And according to some accounts, he walked up to Rick Pitino and said, "Coach, I'm good to go." What an absolute warrior, who's now leading the team in 3-point percentage, shooting 40, despite how much struggles we have from deep. He's shooting 40%. It's crazy. Fingers crossed that it's not a long extended time off. Dr. Rick Pitino saying that the shoulder popped out, but it's not a dislocation. I'm not really sure what exactly that means, but if he only misses Georgetown, again, Georgetown's not going to be an easy game either. Every single game in the Big East is going to be a rock fight this year, except for maybe Seton Hall. But Georgetown is much improved. Thomas Sorver's arguably the rookie of the year in the Big East. It's going to be a challenging game. Hopefully the fans turn out again on Tuesday, but hopefully it's only a 1-game absence for Davon.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to play lip reader here, but I thought I saw him say when he came out, "I am good to go." And then later when they put on the bench after his stint in, it looked like he said, "Man, I shouldn't have gone back in," or something to that extent. But hopefully he's all right. You got to love the want to get out there. I won't hold it against him. And speaking, I can't believe it's took 10 minutes to mention, but Simeon Wilcher late made huge plays. I thought the turning point of the game was that steal run out and that tough reverse finish around Dixon late. I believe that gave us a 3-point lead and a little bit of cushion after struggling shooting early. aside from a highlight dunk that he had in the first half, he really made two big baskets in the throes of the game when it could have gone either direction. He had that layup and he had a nice pull up when it mattered most. So credit to him for stepping up when his team needed him, and he's going to certainly have to have an increased role if Smith is out for any duration of time.
And Rick had him and RJ along with him for the post-game press conference, and he mentioned about Sim's game that it didn't really show up in the box score, but Sim made all the important plays that aren't seen, like all the coach's player plays that he wanted him to do, did all the right things. And he mentioned specifically that steal at the end of the game as being a real big momentum swing for us.
Yeah, and Kadari as well had big plays late. We needed it most. A huge and one finish, a mid-range pull-up, and then 3 for 3 from the free throw line. I want to say is that 5 in a row he's made?
Looks smooth.
5 in a row he's made. So, yeah, look out, Big East leaders. No, Kadari's been – hey, need my pronunciations, you know me. Kadari's been, in my opinion, really solid in Big East play. Expectations aside, I think he's been a huge part of what we've done, and it will be a huge piece of what we do moving forward. And in closing time, getting into the paint, making plays for himself and others is going to be invaluable. And then, you saw last night, yes, he's very much susceptible to getting beat off the dribble. And, I could do without him not wanting to get on the floor. We've mentioned it, ad nauseum. But his ability to get his hands on balls and deflections, cause steals, big rebounds in traffic, block shots, contest shots, either jump shots or at the rim. It just helps all of our guys fill in better together, not having exactly a prototypical 1 through 5 lineup out there. He's able to help us blend different lineups and stay strong on the glass or cover ground defensively, no matter what the combination of guys we have on the court. So I think as he gets healthier and as we continue to get more and more familiar with each other, we're only going to see better out of Kadari, and that's bad news for the rest of the Big East.
Bad news is right. Yeah, 9 points, 4 boards, 5 assists, plus 13. So second on the team behind Zuby and plus minus. Again, to your point, expectations. We all thought he was going to come in here and average 25 and be winning Big East Player of the Year. But it's all the things, all the pieces of his game and how he affects the game in a multitude of ways, his ability to create for others. That's what makes this team so good, in my opinion. And on the defensive end as well, like this team meshes so well together that even without Kadari scoring the way we had hoped that he would, he still affects the game so many other ways that I think he is severely underrated amongst our fan base for what he does on the court outside of just scoring. People want to just criticize him and the fact that we're paying him whatever and NIL money, that he's not dropping 30 points every single game. But I think his ability to create for others really helps this team.
Yeah, and you'll notice it more when shots begin to fall and some of those open looks are converted into baskets. You don't get any credit in the stat sheet from an assist that would have been, unfortunately. But he does do a great job of setting his teammates up. He had a beautiful bounce pass to Zuby last night into the post for a finish. Zuby, by the way, hit that 5 defensive rebound threshold last night, led the team in defensive rebounds. He's been an absolute stud. There's not many guys who can match Dixon physically with the strength inside. And Zuby is one of those few guys in the Big East. He continues to impress me game in, game out. He's been just rock solid. And I have my
you mentioned Sim's post or dunk too. That was also a tremendous pass by Kadari.
Yeah, bounce pass quick on the break. Oh, speaking of bounce passes on the break, I'd be remiss not to mention an RJ Lewis coast to coast right before a drop off, dump off, bounce pass to Aaron Scott for a dunk at a crucial time. Cole, I know you've been on him.
He made me eat my words. It was beautiful. I got through to him.
Yeah, well, that's all it takes. Just, we say that in jest. It was an absolutely tremendous game by RJ and his will. I say in my description here, St. John wills its way to a win over Villanova. That is really a description that is, shown by no one more clearly than RJ late. Offensive rebounds, hunting the basketball on the floor, in the paint, battling against guys bigger than him physically, and just refusing to lose. I said it early in the season, him with 2 feet in the paint is as good a weapon as anything in the Big East, and it's looking more and more like it's as good as any weapon in the country. So here's to RJ to continue to improve and staying at St. John's as long as possible.
I thought Patino had an awesome quote in his post-game interview talking about toughness and work ethic. He said, "Our work ethic is phenomenal. Our defense is great. Our rebounding is great. We always want to start a program with incredible work ethic, and we have it. That's why I think our fans are turning out in droves. I think we're physically, mentally a tough team, and that's why we're winning. We're defying a lot of analytics."
I love
And
it. I love it.
I think to those analytics point, we talked even before the season when this roster was finally finalized that 3-point shooting was going to be a huge Achilles heel for this team. They've been able to win despite some terrible 3-point shooting performances just because of how talented I think this roster is, how amazing they are defensively. They're able to overcome those shortfalls. But I wanted to lead into a little bit of a talk about Brady Dunlap's injury, I guess injuries now, plural. Obviously, he had the finger injury that required surgery, which was going to keep him out originally 3 to 6 weeks. Now, apparently, he also has an abdominal issue, which might cost him the rest of the season. Apparently, he would have the ability for a medical red shirt. But I wanted to pick your brain and get your opinion on what losing a 3-point marksman like that, how that would affect maybe the other shooters on the team. We mentioned Aaron Scott really struggling this season from 3. I was looking at the stats post Brady's injury. So Brady obviously started tremendously hot this season from 3, then apparently hurt the finger in the Kansas State game, started to struggle a little bit, still sits at 37.5% from deep, which I think is second best or third best on the roster behind just Davon and Jaden Glover. But following for him to sort of struggle after that Kansas State game from 3 and still be 37.5% from deep really shows to how hot he started at the beginning of the season. But after Brady's injury, we shot 16.7% against Providence, then played Delaware, which is an outlier, 66%, 8 of 12 shooting, but then 22% from deep against Creighton, 4.8%. That was the 1 for 12 against Butler, 12.5% against Xavier, and then last night, 29% against Nova.
Who the hell needs 3-point shots?
Apparently we don't, because we only have 1 loss out of that entire group of games. It's pretty impressive when you're shooting that poorly from deep.
Yeah, when you're leaving yourself with 1 or 2 made threes, or you're shooting sub 20% from long distance. I mean, you have a razor thin margin of error, and you're putting yourself, your defense, you're stressing them the whole game, putting that much load on them and that much responsibility to keep the game within reach and to limit runs, because your ability to make runs is severely lessened when you can't make 3-point shots. Doesn't mean you can't be a really good team if you're not a great 3-point shooting team. I just think what we've seen, we'll have to find a happy medium between being abysmal and being an average team, even from 3-point range. But if you can make 5 or 6 and shoot at a reasonable clip above 30%, I think the sky is the limit with this team, assuming we're healthy. I think it's highlighted a little bit more than it would be generally with the loss of Brady, just because the guys who we would expect, Lewis and Scott specifically, to be adequate 3-point shooters when left open, have been in big time slumps. I believe prior to yesterday, they were both 0 in the Big East season from 3, which is hard to believe with the way we started. And I could be wrong on that. I know Scott was for sure. I'm not sure about Lewis. I'm pretty sure he was as well. And if those guys were, like I said, shooting adequately above 30%, I think we'd be talking less about it. And you've heard Pitino stress it over and over again. And I wasn't sure if he was saying it in jest in some of the articles, but seeing it in person on the broadcast, you can hear him yelling at the guys to shoot the 3, shoot the 3, shoot the 3. And I think he's just trying to keep the guys from locking up and being scared to take that shot, knowing the defense has to at least respect it a little bit. But how long can you really go with that strategy if you're shooting 15%? I mean, can you continue to fire them up? Hopefully it doesn't get to that point. We saw yesterday us break the ice a little bit, but a guy like Glover or a guy like Dunlap being consistent in the lineup and someone who's capable of making 2 or 3 threes if left open, I think will be the key moving forward. Even if that's, I say that's actually, hopefully it's only 15 minutes of play for one of those guys. I don't think either of those guys have showed that they've deserved 20 plus minutes, but I think just the threat of a guy who is a knockdown, capable catch and shoot shooter, if we can call either of those guys that, maybe that's a little bit of a stretch, but it's as close as we got, could really open up the team and the other guys' ability to get in the paint and make plays.
Yeah, we're 5-1 to start Big East play, and we're shooting this atrociously, like historically bad from 3-point. Like if we even become a mediocre 3-point shooting team, like the whole Big East is in big trouble.
Yeah, it's a good sign, if anything. I think that's a positive. You got to look at it as positive. Anything else, Cole? I know we got Georgetown Tuesday. They're 5 or Georgetown's 4 and whatever Georgetown is, they're doing well. I forget their exact record in the Big East, but it's on the upper half of things, and they're playing well. And Cooley's got things looking good. They've got some talent, that's for sure. Sorber is a big time beast in the middle, only a freshman, and they got some quality guys in the backcourt. And Mac and PV's playing well. So St. John's will have to be on their best game Tuesday night, especially if they're shorthanded. The chance to get to 6-1, a chance to keep solidifying yourself as the top 25 team in the country. There should be no reason for St. John's to not be up for the basketball game.
Yeah, it's not the Georgetown of last year cruising to an 0-20
No.
Big East performance. So yeah, like hopefully team can get healthy. Hopefully, Davon doesn't miss Georgetown. Hopefully he's available.
Yeah.
If he's not, hopefully players can step up. And most importantly, like I said before, hopefully the fans continue to show up and support this team, because they clearly fed off the energy out of that building yesterday, and they are going to need it to help power them through the rest of this conference play, because this conference, every game's going to be a dogfight, and they're going to need the hometown team, the hometown fans to back them up. So
Dogfight. Was that a shout out to the Hoyas? Wow. Okay, cool. Way to wrap things up. Awesome. I guess good luck to your Philadelphia Eagles later today. I say that begrudgingly. As my podcast co-host, I guess I'll grant you that. For everybody else, thanks for tuning in. We got to say we passed the 300 threshold mark on YouTube subscribers, so shout out to you guys. Big milestone there. Please continue to like, subscribe, rate, review, all that jazz. For David Kane, I am Pat Kane. That's Cole Atshaw. This has been the Red Storm Rap Reaction Podcast. V's down. Peace.